Every Thursday morning, a calendar reminder pops up that just says, make follow-ups. I put it there myself on purpose because knowing you should call a client and actually calling them turned out to be two very different things. People usually know when something isn't working. The harder part is doing something about it. I've noticed this in organizations with people I've worked with and in myself. There are things in my own life that I know I could fix. Sometimes I don't fix them because they take effort. Sometimes I'm just lazy. And sometimes the problem is simply that I've gotten used to it. It's surprisingly easy to tolerate something that isn't working just because fixing it would require an action you don't particularly want to take. I've seen the same thing at work. One example was following up with clients. Most people know that follow-up was necessary, but there was a peculiar amount of inertia around making the call. You know you should call. You think about calling. You put it off. Then someone asks about the status, and suddenly you make the call. The problem wasn't that anyone didn't understand the importance of following up. The problem was that the action itself had enough friction that it was easy to postpone. Postponing follow-up wasn't driving results. So I tried to change the system rather than simply telling people to be more proactive. I wanted myself and my teams to develop a stronger sense of urgency. We were the underdog in a lot of situations. We couldn't assume customers would come to us, and we had to create movement. That's why Thursday mornings became the fixed slot deliberately. There was enough time during the week for the people we needed to contact to have some development. But it wasn't so late that a response would arrive over the weekend and sit there. For important conversations, I like to make the initial call. A call creates a little more urgency. It gives me an opportunity to explain what needs to happen and ask the other person to take action. But for follow-ups, I have found that text is often more efficient. I can send a large number of follow-ups in 10 or 20 minutes instead of spending the entire morning making calls one by one. Most of the time, people respond. What looked like a motivation problem turned out to be partly a systems problem. Kim Scott writes in Radical Candor, if you can build a culture where people listen to one another, they will start to fix things you as the boss never even knew were broken. There's another part to that. People also need to feel that they're allowed to fix things. If every change requires challenging authority, explaining yourself, and getting permission from someone above you, inertia becomes the default. The safest thing is to keep doing what you have always done. Here's where I started noticing the same pattern outside my own team. Lloyd Blankfein describes exactly this kind of inertia in Streetwise. People closest to the business often knew how to fix things, but didn't act until someone gave them the order. His joke was essentially, tell me what you think should be done, because then I will tell you to do it. That's funny, but there's something dysfunctional about it. If the person closest to the problem already knows the solution, why does the organization need to wait for the boss to authorize the obvious? Good management should make initiative feel normal, not reckless. Not every idea is good, but people should feel that improving something is part of their job, rather than an act of insubordination. I've realized the same thing applies to myself. I don't need to wait until I feel motivated to fix something. If something matters, I can put it on the calendar, make the phone call, send the message, change the process, make the first small move. Once something is moving, it usually becomes much easier to keep moving. The dangerous state is knowing something is wrong and remaining still, because then the problem becomes part of the environment. You stop seeing it as something that can be changed. It becomes, that's just how things work. I don't want that to become my default. At work, I want people around me to feel the same way. If something is broken, say so. If you know how to improve it, propose it. If the improvement is sound, don't wait for someone to give you permission to care about it. The objective isn't to constantly change things for the sake of change. It's to develop a culture where inertia has to justify itself. Personally, I'm trying to apply the same standard. If I know something needs to be fixed, I want my first question to be, what can I do about it? Then do that thing.